do I have some heat cooked up for you today. Star of the show, certified trick room sweeper, big damage incarnate, Araquanid, mystic water bubble. Let me tell you, these liquidations, bruh, they hit different. So we're running protect, wide guard, liquidation, leech life, basically all bulk, all attack. You don't need speed investment on this guy because he's slow as crap anyways, and we want him to be as, I guess, fast. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, as fast as possible under trick room, as slow as possible under trick room, so he moves first. We can just hit water bubble, mystic water, terra water, helping hand, rain dance boosted liquidations. And speaking of trick room, helping hand, and rain dance, that brings me to our next Pokemon, Farigiraf. Now, I really love Porygon 2, right? Like one of my favorite Pokemon ever. You can see it in the overlay that goes around the videos. The thing with Eviolite Trick Room setters, and this is the same problem I had when I was using Dusclops, in Regulation E or D, I can't remember the one where the home Pokemon were first allowed. And I was using Dusclops with a Blood Moon Ursaluna team. Now, Dusclops has a little bit of advantage because it's Ghost type, so it's Fake Out immune, but it's not Taunt immune. And I was running into the same problems with Porygon 2, where Porygon 2 is such an easy fake out target. It can get taunted because you can't run Mental Herb because you want to run Eviolite on it. Farigiraf fixes all those problems because of Armor Tail, which prevents priority. Now, that means you can still get got by non-prankster taunt users, but the majority of taunt users are all of the prankster guys running around. Farigiraf can't get faked out, and then he also has the benefit of blocking, Grassy Glides, Thunderclaps, extreme speeds, so he's just a lot more practical and probably the best trick room setter right now. Maybe Cresselia, but Cresselia doesn't give the same benefits that Armor Tail gives, and you just run pure support. So for this one, we have Trick Room, Helping Hand, Psychic Noise, new move to block all the healing from like Drain Punches, Grassy Terrain, all that. And then we have Rain Dance, so we can in twofold nerf enemy fire types and buff our Araquanid's liquidation. The core of this team with Farigiraf actually came from Mr. Moxie Boosted's team. He ran an Araquanid team that used almost the exact same 6 that I have at Portland. So before I had Farigiraf, I had Porygon, so the team was a little different. Then I switched to Farigiraf, then I was looking around for some inspiration for some like Farigiraf, Porygon Trick Room teams, stumbled upon his, and all of the most used mons on Pikalytics are like Rillaboom or Shifu, Fluttermane, all the main guys. And so that's pretty much how we ended up filling out the team, right? I have a standard Rillaboom set. Fake Out just helps Trick Room go up easier so they can't double into you. And it's Grassy Glide, Woodhammer. I have U-Turn instead of High Horsepower because I wanted the pivot so I could, fake out Trick Room, pivot into my Araquanid. Raging Bolt, because Raging Bolt might honestly be the best mon in the meta right now, and it has a speed tier that means it can operate under Trick Room or outside of Trick Room. The dude's also just an absolute nuclear bomb. I'm running Calm Mind, Thunderclap, Dragon Pulse, because if I can find a turn or two to set up with Calm Minds, then Thunderclap just hits absolutely unbelievably. Terra Grass to help with the ground types. You don't want to go Terra Flying because then you lose to other Raging Bolts, and Raging Bolt is everywhere right now. My biggest difference from a lot of the Trick Room teams is I opted for Heatran over Incineroar. Some people, you just have Pokemon that you aren't very good at using. Incineroar is one of them for me. I just don't feel like I can ever use it optimally, and it's such a position-based Pokemon too. It's the same way with Dragonite. Even when Dragonite is really meta, I just never feel like I can properly utilize Dragonite, so I tend to stray away from it. Obviously, I still have teams and build teams where I use Incineroar. I just didn't love how it fit on this team. Plus, Heatran helps me a lot more in the King Gambit matchup. Terra Grass Heatran, pretty standard, Protect, Heat Wave, Flash Cannon, Earth Power, leftovers, and then just a bulky special attacker set. And then we also have a standard Choice Specs Fluttermane, Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast. This one I opted for Icy Wind in the 4th slot, just in case I have a game where I can't get the Trick Room set up. I can use Icy Wind to slow the opponents down a couple stages. All of the EV spreads I have, I didn't make these. I just went on to the smogon.com/stats, went to VGC Reg F, sorted by 1760. Just pulled some common ones off of there. And then before we get into the battles, just want to say, just for people who probably won't make it all the way to the end, no videos probably for the next 2 weeks. moving this weekend, and then the week after I'm in Florida for a week for work. So appreciate everyone watching, and I'll cook up something extremely shiesty for the return. With all that said, hey, we got some battles to hop into. All right, we're coming at you post-commentary style once again. First team on the docket, a Regigigas Wheezing Neutralizing Gas Slow Start team. Hey, maybe QWERTY328 watched my video. I appreciate you, big dog. So the first thing I'm looking for with this team, let me pause this right here. The first thing I'm looking for with this team is, can I effectively set up Trick Room? Because Araquanid is so slow. He's like base 42, I think. So you give him 0 speed EVs, 0 speed IVs, negative speed nature. Dude is pathetically slow. And this is a team, other than the Ogerpon can give him some issue because of water absorb. But other than that, Landorus, yes, he can intimidate, but he doesn't want to take a liquidation. Gigas would take big damage from a liquidation. Wheezing, I don't totally know. I'm sure he would still take big damage. Iron Boulder doesn't want to take it. Fluttermane doesn't want to take it. So I'm looking if I can get Trick Room set up effectively. So the obvious lead with his team is going to be Gigas Wheezing or like Fluttermane Landorus. So I feel pretty confident that I can get the Trick Room up. Fridgeraff is pretty bulky. And I'm basically playing around the Gigas Wheezing open, because anything else he opens, I am totally okay with. I know I can get the Trick Room up for sure. Gigas Wheezing is a little trickier, because if the Wheezing has Taunt, he can Taunt Fridgeraff. Gigas, I don't think. I mean, Fridgeraff is really bulky, but Gigas also has just, an unbelievable attack stat. And if he's using a stab move, there's probably a solid chance Fridgeraff goes down. But I'm playing around the fact that I have Rillaboom Fake Out. And so I could like fake out the Wheezing if I think it's going to taunt. I could fake out the Gigas if I think he's just going to go for huge damage. So that's the opening I'm playing around. So let's resume this here. And we will see he actually opens Iron Boulder Landorus. So I know with no problems that I can get the Trick Room set up. I'm going to fake out the Landorus slot because a Terraflying Terra Blast, I don't know the calc for sure, but we play off of vibes here. And the vibes are telling me for sure that a Terraflying Terra Blast will just instantly kill my Rillaboom. I have no doubts about that. He didn't Terra turn 1 though, even if he predicted the fake out. But the fact that he didn't Terra turn 1 tells me it's probably just a Scarf Landorus that wants to pivot out with U-turn. I don't know at this point yet if he has Wheezing Gigas, but still using that Landorus to pivot around is really nice in getting that board position. I go for a Helping Hand Woodhammer into the Iron Boulder just because I want to kill it. He switches into Wheezing, so now I know if Wheezing is here, there's a solid chance that Gigas is here. And the thing with the Gigas Wheezing team is you generally want to target down the Wheezing because Gigas without Wheezing doesn't do a ton. So that's what I do. I go for the Psychic Noise on Wheezing because he's weak to it. Get the heal block on him. And then I click U-turn into Iron Boulder. Probably should have just clicked like Helping Hand Woodhammer, or just a straight Woodhammer probably would have killed. Because now I put myself in a situation that I like to call an Agency Classic. I didn't know for sure if Iron Boulder would use Mighty Cleave, but he did. And so the Agency Classic is me sacking my Featuremon, and it does nothing for the rest of the battle. He did let me pivot Heatran in for free though, so I mean, I guess that counts for something, right? And now the big battle I'm going to have with myself is deciding which turn I want to Terra. I just go for the Helping Hand Heat Wave. He is going to double protect the Wheezing and the Iron Boulder. I'm stuck here. I'm so concerned about the Mighty Cleave, and I even clicked my Terra. My gut feeling was correct. I was like, I need to Terra this turn, get the Helping Hand Heat Wave off. Wheezing will die. Iron Boulder will take like half HP probably, and then I cancel. I'm like, no, I don't need to Terra this turn. I don't think it'll matter. And then I get super bailed out. He gets the double protect on Wheezing. I go for Heat Wave, and I get the burn, thank goodness, because Iron Boulder used close combat, and with some of these new Paradox Mons, I don't totally know their movesets yet. So, playing off of vibes, my gut feeling to Terra on that turn was correct. And I didn't. Took close combat damage, but the Heat Wave burn clutched up so hard. And then at this point, I'm like, okay, I just need to kill this Wheezing. I'm going to protect Heatran, because he's probably going to, try to kill Heatran. He actually goes for the Mighty Cleave on Fridgeraff, but because of the burn, I don't have too much to be worried about. And then I can just start blasting off with Heatran. I Terra this turn because I'm expecting another close combat to come out. I didn't think that Landorus would like Terra Flying Terra Blast into my Heatran. He U-turns though, so I kind of take a bunch of unnecessary damage there. Although I only take 15% from the close combat. Don't really know if that was worth it or not, because I would have gotten the double kill regardless without the Terra. And now Landorus comes in, Gigas comes in. As an experienced Regigigas player, I know that I can just ignore Regigigas for now. Slow start, he's half attack, half speed. And this dude wins off of his Landorus because it's scarfed, it outspeeds everything. Even being locked into U-turn, or not being locked into U-turn because he just sent it back out. He's scarfed, so he outspeeds. Now he Terra Flying Terra Blasts. I protect Heatran because I know that Heatran is dead. Psychic Noise I know is a 2-shot because it did 40% earlier. So then at this point, it's basically, okay, do I sack Heatran or do I sack Rillaboom? Ultimately, it's better for me to keep Rillaboom in the back because of the fake out pressure. And I can get the grassy terrain to get some extra recovery on my guys on the field. So the Heatran slot, Farigiraf is always going to Psychic Noise the Landorus. He can't protect because he's scarfed. Heatran slot, I'm like, okay, we'll try to get the double protect because if I get it, then Heatran lives. I have a 3v1 against the Gigas. I don't get the double protect. So Heatran goes down. That's fine. That's what we expected and played for. I'm not really sure why Gigas went for the protect. I think he should have attacked the last turn because then he could have protected on my fake out. Then, you know, it's a matter of just fake out Psychic Noise, double into the Gigas, clean that game up pretty nicely. Thank you, Heatwave, for burning. Second game, this team was a beauty for me to see because there is no world whatsoever in which this guy can stop Trick Room from going up if I lead Farigiraf Rillaboom. Not scared of Whimsicott, even if it carries Taunt, because Whimsicott runs Prankster. Armor Tail will block the Prankster Taunt. So I'm pretty much free to just lead Farigiraf Rillaboom, fake out whatever the bigger threat is, and get Trick Room up. Then my other decision was which of the 3 do I want to bring in the back between Bolt, Heatran, Fluttermane. I end up running Heatran because Earth Power hits Regieleki, Flash Cannon hits Fluttermane. I can Terra Grass for the Heatran Surging Strikes. I can hit Whimsicott with Heat Wave. I can hit Incineroar with Earth Power. So Heatran just makes sense as my last choice. He leads Incineroar Regieleki. Now I know that an Incineroar knockoff will do a lot of damage to Farigiraf. And I'm not really too worried about Regieleki because of the Transistor nerf. Lecky is just not going to do enough damage to one-shot a bulky Farigiraf, you know, unless he gets like a crit Thunderbolt or something, which even then might not kill, it might kill, but didn't matter. My play here was always going to be to fake out the Incineroar and get Trick Room up. Regieleki just goes for Volt Switch, which is fine. He's a fast pivot. That's what he wants to do. Pivots into Fluttermane. I faked out Incineroar to prevent the knockoff or the Flare Blitz into Rillaboom. And now I'm at a point where, okay, I can just start getting myself set up for the Araquanid sweep. So I go for Rain Dance to weaken the Flare Blitz if it comes out. And I am going to pivot Rillaboom. I'm okay knowing that Rillaboom will pivot before Fluttermane attacks because Araquanid has just an absolute massive special defense. It's like base 135. So uninvested, you're still taking special hits like nothing, and I'm like full invested on HP 236. So I bring Araquanid in, take 74% from a Terra Fairy special attack boosted Fluttermane Moonblast, just an absolute tank. And here, I'm just loading up. We're Liquidation, Helping Hand in the rain onto the Fluttermane, and this is where I think this guy made a massive misplay. Araquanid is always going to go first here because he is the slowest one on the field. But what you'll see here is when the turn starts, he switches into Incineroar to get the Intimidate off, which it kind of makes sense. But let me pause this and show you this calc. So look at this. Even though we are -1 attack from the Intimidate, this is, and I didn't Terra, so this is a Water Bubble, Mystic Water, 236 Brave, Helping Hand, Rain invested Liquidation. And I mean, it doesn't matter what the Fluttermane's bulk was, right? Like if he had Protect, he should have always used Protect here. if he's 100 HP, 220 defense, which is an extremely bulky Flutter Mane, it does a minimum of 155%. So this Flutter Mane, no matter what, was always going to die. Even, like, look, if I don't Helping Hand, he's still, like, the Flutter Mane's still dead. If I Helping Hand and there's no weather, the Flutter Mane is still dead. There was, especially with the rain being up, there was no reason that the Flutter Mane it should have used Protect, or the Indeedee should have traded with the Araquanid. So now what happens is Indeedee comes back out, but because he didn't trade the Araquanid, Incineroars don't carry Protect because they're usually Fake Out, Parting Shot, knockoff Flare Blitz. Araquanid is still slower than everything on the field, so I know now that I can just go for just another completely free Liquidation. So I'm just going to click Helping Hand Liquidation into the Incineroar. I'd prefer the Incineroar to go down. And I'm like, and I actually Terra Water this time because I didn't expect to get an extra turn of using Araquanid. So I was like, let's just buff up this damage as much as possible. Go for the Araquanid and see how Expanding Force kills. That's what he should have done last turn, because now he wasted his Incineroar's life because he let Araquanid stay up. And I was fine with that. I was like, even if the Indeedee has Follow Me, like, it'll 100% get one shot. The Incineroar got one shot, so now it's just down to Regieleki, Indeedee. At this point, I feel like I have this game pretty locked up. I'm not worried about Indeedee at all. I doubled the Alecki in case it's carrying Focus Sash. He protects to stall at the Trick Room, but like, even if he's like Terra Ice Beam or whatever, but he already used his Terra on Flutter Mane, he's just gonna go for Farigiraf and then a Dazzling Gleam. Woodhammer ends up one-shotting anyways, so he wasn't Focus Sash. And then I can just double into Indeedee, and I mean the game's pretty much over from here because that was a big misplay on the Flutter Mane turn. He either needed to use Protect or he needed to trade, and even then I still think it would have been a hard game for him to win because he didn't really have a lot of damage outside of Flutter Mane. Lecky is there, but Lecky is just not great right now without Dynamax and with the Transistor nerf. So there's that game. Araquanid giving us quite a show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the game we've been waiting for. This is the Araquanid showcase. Buckle in, it's gonna get crazy. So initially I see Whimsicott Terrakion, and that always means beat up Justified Shenanigans to get the max attack, whatever. I know if he leads that, I can get the Trick Room up. I'll have to sack someone probably, but I can bring someone else in to kill the Terrakion. Other than that, I'm not too worried about getting the Trick Room up and operating under it. So of course I'm bringing Araquanid in the back, and then I end up bringing Raging Bolt because he has a lot of speed on his team, and I figured if I can't operate in Trick Room, the priority will help me a lot. So he ends up leading Indeedee Flutter Mane, which isn't necessarily what I expected, which means he gets Psychic Terrain up because Indeedee is slower than Rillaboom, so his ability activates second, and that means I can't fake out the Indeedee slot. So I'm going to go for Trick Room. I'm like, this is fine. I can still get Trick Room up, and I trust that Rillaboom can live whatever hit Flutter Mane and Indeedee sends at it because I'm Assault Vest. So I'll take the hit, slow U-turn out, and bring Araquanid in at full HP. He actually switches Flutter Mane out, which I was surprised by. And so I get Araquanid in off of the U-turn for free, pretty much. There's just one slight thing that I forgot about. You'll see after I switch in Araquanid here. The Indeedee uses Imprison. Now, I had a slight lapse of judgment, and I forgot that Indeedee learned a Trick Room. So I was like, all right, well, we'll pivot here. Araquanid takes half damage from fire, so I can Terra Water and really mitigate this damage, and I will throw Rain Dance up to mitigate it even further. So Heat Wave does absolutely nothing to Araquanid. Rain Dance goes up, and look at this damage! 74%. Indeedee Terra Waters, it doesn't matter. We still smack them hard. Now at this point, I don't know if it's Focus Sash Chi-Yu, it could be Scarf or Specs. Regardless, Araquanid's special defense is big enough to where if the Chi-Yu uses something else, it's going to be like Dark Pulse or Snarl. Not worried about Snarl at all. Dark Pulse, I would think he would just want to take out Farigiraf potentially. So I end up switching in Rillaboom so I can get my grassy terrain up, and he uses Heat Wave again. that tells me, okay, he is specs. And I was okay with switching Rillaboom in because I have the Assault Vest and because the rain is up. And then look at that. Liquidation, one shot on the Chi-Yu, has Indeedee down to nothing. And I was, I was like, okay, if the Indeedee uses Follow Me, it's just dead anyways. So he's going to send in Iron Bundle. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just double into the Iron Bundle. If he follows me, then I will get the kill on Indeedee and get big damage off on Bundle because Grassy Glide will go first. So Grassy Glide will kill Indeedee. He protects. Dazzling Gleam does 10% to both of my Pokemon, so that just gets mitigated by the Grassy Terrain healing. And I'm like, okay, well, I will just do the same exact thing. I will Grassy Glide the Bundle, and I will Liquidation the Bundle. Because, same thing. So here, this time he uses Follow Me. Grassy Glide goes into Indeedee and kills it. Bundle uses Freeze Dry. Araquanid's an absolute tank. Liquidation does 92%. I mean, Araquanid just out here taking names. Araquanid is standing on business out here. So at this point, he brings Flutter Mane in. I'm like, whatever. I have Iron Bundle pinned. And I actually predict that he's going to protect again this turn because the Grassy Glide is so obvious. So I Grassy Glide into the Flutter Mane slot. And then I'm like, okay, well, the Flutter Mane probably wants to Dazzling Gleam here. So I'm going to click Wide Guard on my Araquanid. I get that part wrong. So Grassy Glide comes out, does good 70%. Flutter Mane uses Moonblast. I mean, it's whatever. Grassy Terrain's still up, so I can just do the same thing. Grassy Glide into the Bundle slot. Liquidation into the Flutter Mane slot. Something probably dies here. I mean, his best play would have been to protect and then target down Araquanid with Flutter Mane. But he just keeps going for Rillaboom because of the priority. Araquanid gets yet another kill. And then at this point, I brought Raging Bolt. So I'm like, well, you're not getting another protect. So I can just Thunderclap Liquidation you. And put wraps on that game. Araquanid, salute to you, sir. That was beautiful. So, 3 battles. Araquanid showed up, showed out. Hey, if you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Aim is to put up content weekly. It's going to slow down the next couple weeks because, like I said earlier, moving, then on a work trip. But I will return with some heat, just like we brought some heat with the Araquanid today.